stargazing.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to D's Corner. I'm your host, D. We are going to jump into the Week 1 AFC grades and recap of free agency. Let's go ahead. We're going to jump right into it, starting with the AFC East. The New England Patriots, the grade I gave them for their – now, understand, guys, this is just the free agency Week 1. All right, so their team needs going into free agency was quarterback, wide receiver, offensive line. Their Week 1 biggest move was they traded Mac Jones and Devontae Parker. They did get some draft capital, not much, but they did get some later round picks for these players. They did retain some of their defensive players. With them having the most money, you're not expecting them to swing for the fences as far as quarterback because there wasn't very much. There wasn't a deep pool of free agency guys at the quarterback position. Jacoby Brissett was an extremely good pickup for them. I really like that. He's played there before, and he's a veteran journeyman, but he's a guy that can come in. He can win you some games and bridge until you get your rookie. Most likely that's what they're going to draft. But until you get your rookie player, your rookie quarterback up to speed. Next up, we have the New York Jets. Now, the New York Jets coming into the offseason, going into free agency, they needed to get protection for Aaron Rodgers. All throughout the offensive line, they did need some wide receivers. They do still need wide receivers as well as tight ends, but I gave New York Jets a B. You can't fault them for trying. They did go out and get Tyron Smith this past season. Was his healthiest year at left tackle. That's someone who's definitely going to protect Aaron Rodgers. They did sign John Simpson, and they traded for Morgan Moses. Both these players came from the Rams. Moses is a right tackle. John Simpson is on the left side. They still have Joe Tittman at center and Elijah Vera Tucker at their right guard. So they went and shored up their offensive line in free agency. Like I said, I really like these moves. They did, however, they still do, however, need some weapons for Aaron Rodgers. Alan Lazard is not cut out. They're actually hoping, I'm assuming, to trade him. I've seen reports. I don't know who would want to take on him as well as his contract, but I definitely could see them going and getting the best player available now when it's their turn to pick. I could see a Brock Bowers if he slides to them, Malik Neighbors, Rome Odunze. I also wouldn't be surprised to see them trade back and try to accumulate some more picks. They don't have a lot of draft capital, but I could definitely see them trading back and then trying to acquire maybe a player like T. Higgins to pair him with Garrett Wilson. But I do like the path that the New York Jets did take this offseason. Miami Dolphins, I also gave them a B. They didn't have a lot of cap space. They had holes to fill. Their biggest team needs were their offense and defensive line, and they did go out and they did lose some of their offensive line players, but they did shore up some of the areas in which they needed on defense with veteran players who have leadership, experience, and who can play. Kendall Fuller is a player that I really like. He's someone who can slide in the slot and play opposite of Jalen Ramsey. Jordan Poyer is definitely going to replace some of the safeties that they lost, as well as Shaq Barrett, who can hold down the edge until you have Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb as they come back from severe injuries. Now, you do still want to see them shore up their offensive line. They did do some small re-signings, but they lost Robert Hunt, their biggest guy, in free agency this year. They still need interior offensive linemen. But this is a good draft for them. So with what they were, with what they had as far as cap space, I really like what the Miami Dolphins have done. The Buffalo Bills. I gave Buffalo a C because Buffalo like Miami, they didn't have a lot of cap space or wiggle room when it comes to the cap. They lost 3 of their starting secondary members, Jordan Poyer, Micah Hyde, as well as Tre'Davious White. Now, the corner position they should be okay at. They've had depth there. The safety position is one that I still iffy on. They did bring back Taylor Rapp. However, these guys needed weapons. They lost Jordan. They lost Gabe Davis, Stephon Diggs. You don't know what truly is coming up of going to happen with that situation. But Curtis Samuel, I like the signing, but he's not truly the huge difference maker that they need. Now, he is a player that they can hand the ball to, jet sweep out the backfield, throw screens to. He is a burner. He can run. Now, he's a good player. I just think that they could have done more or attempted to do more. So this particular team, now remember, this is just week 1. There are still free agents out there that they can go get to try to shore up and get some depth, but Buffalo's going to have to build in the draft. Moving on to the AFC South, starting off, we have the Tennessee Titans. Now, the Tennessee Titans, I did like what they have done so far. They were a team who also had money, but they had holes to fill, and I like the holes that they filled. They had a running back need. They picked up a running back. They had a wide receiver need. They picked up a wide receiver. Then they had cornerback need, and they also picked up a corner. I love the addition of Chidobe Awuzie. He's a veteran corner. He will help lead and be an ear, someone to lean on for McCrary. Also, Calvin Ridley pairing him with D-Hop. What does this mean for Treylon Burks? Will he be traded? Will they allow him to learn from 2 veteran guys and see how it was when you kind of give him a smaller role? He was called on to be the guy, replace A.J. Brown, and it just didn't work out. Tony Pollard, I think I do like the Tony Pollard move. He's from Memphis, back home. They needed to replace Derrick Henry, but I don't believe that this is going to be a team that gives Tony Pollard 25, 30 carries a game. All right, next up, the Jacksonville Jaguars. I gave Jacksonville a C because I feel that Jacksonville has a lot to build. They lost a lot. They had O-line was their biggest need, corner and wide receiver. Now, they did fill some of these positions. Gabe Davis is an additional player, but he's not truly Calvin Ridley. And there were stretches of games last year where he didn't even have a reception. Now, he will block. He will do the dirty work, so he is a good additional receiver for them that I do actually like. I love the pickup of Eric Armstead. He gives them a monster in the middle, a huge guy in the middle to help Allen come off the edge. And Darnell Savage, to me, is one of those sneaky signings. Extremely versatile in the back end, can play in the slot, can blitz, and can come up in run support. Next up, we have the Indianapolis Colts. I gave the Colts a B-. You had team needs a wide receiver, tight end, and also defensive back. What we did in free agency was really we just re-signed and retained our players. Grover Stewart, Kenny Moore, and Michael Pittman. We still have a glaring need in the secondary, safety as well as corner, even with bringing back Kenny. You still want to get Anthony Richardson some weapons. But this allows us in the draft to kind of move freely. A lot of draft to come to you. That's something that Chris Ballard is big at doing, notorious at doing. And don't be surprised if he trades out. Don't be surprised if he trades out. There are still some moves to be made, and it's been reported over the weekend that the Titans as well as the Colts are interested in L'Jarius Sneed. I'm a Colts fan, so I'm hoping that we get L'Jarius Sneed. It'd be great to have a lockdown corner. The Houston Texans. Right now, I think by far this is one of a few teams that's having the best offseason. I give them an A+. Their team needs were running back and the edge, and their biggest moves thus far in week 1, bringing in Danielle Hunter, Joe Mixon, as well as re-signing Dalton Schultz. You give CJ his security blanket. You give Will Anderson a perennial Pro Bowler opposite of him to boost up that edge, as well as Joe Mixon. This team had an issue last year running the ball, and it doesn't look like they're going to run into that problem this year, which does not bode well for the other teams in the AFC South. Moving on to the AFC North, the Pittsburgh Steelers. I gave Pittsburgh a B. Their biggest team needs was offensive line, their quarterback, and linebacker. They just recently traded for Justin Fields, which is something that I talked about on the Double D's podcast. Once they traded out Kenny Pickett, I believed it was a way for them to get Justin Fields. There's reports that they don't see Justin as the starter. Russ will get the opportunity to start. You're paying your quarterback room roughly $4, maybe $5 million this year. So now you're able to go out and really boost up this team around them, making a big splash with Patrick Queen, giving TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith someone to operate in the middle and allow them just to pin their ears back and go. So now they do still need to shore up their offensive line. They'll need to get obviously some weapons with the trading of Deontay Johnson. But Russell Wilson, he throws those teardrop deep balls. Justin Fields, an athletic quarterback. Maybe he can learn some things under Russ. And he still is young enough to push Russ. So I like the situation. You're not paying a lot. It's low risk, high reward. And they're drafting too late to try to get up and get them a young quarterback anyway. So this is really two birds, one stone type deal at the quarterback position. Next up, we have the Cleveland Browns. Now, Cleveland, I gave Cleveland a B as well. Their biggest needs were wide receiver and edge, and they filled those needs. They traded for Jerry Jeudy, who is a former first-round pick, who is a very, very, very clean route runner. He's had issues in Denver. One of those things, in my opinion, is when he got to Denver, the part of the receiving corps was all young. Now he's going in under Amari Cooper, who's also an Alabama wide receiver, who's also a technician when it comes to the routes that he runs, but he's also quiet and he's more reserved. So maybe he can get under Amari Cooper's wings and learn how to become more of a professional. And it only bodes well for Deshaun Watson in this team, in this offense. Keeping and retaining Zadarius Smith, you needed someone opposite of Myles Garrett. Zadarius Smith was the guy last year, and they brought him back, which keeps this defense intact, especially up on that defensive front. With them not having very many draft picks and especially not having a first-round pick, I think that Cleveland has come out as one of the winners of Week 1 free agency. Cincinnati Bengals. I gave Cincinnati a C. Their team needs an offensive line, tight end, and safety. The biggest moves they've made thus far, obviously franchising T. Higgins, who has now requested a trade. We'll see where that goes. Bringing in Geno Stone and Von Bell. They have some young safeties. Obviously, Jordan Battle and Dax Hill. But bringing in Geno, who was a reserve safety for the Ravens, played extremely well. It's gonna be hard not to have him on the field, as well as Von Bell. Von Bell's been in Cincy, was on that team that made it to the Super Bowl. He's an extremely experienced safety, especially for the Bengals. And I think he's someone that can help bring along those younger guys. So I gave them a C, nothing really too fancy. They did bring in Mike Gesicki as well as the tight end. And we'll see how well that goes. But trading T. Higgins is probably going to be their biggest thing right now. This obviously is just after the first week. But we'll see how things work out with them as we get closer and closer to the draft. The Baltimore Ravens. I gave Baltimore a B. Their team needs running back, edge, and offensive line. This was already the number one defense last year. They did lose Patrick Queen, but they drafted Trent Simpson last year, and he's someone that I think that can fill the role that Patrick Queen leaves. I don't think that he'll necessarily be an all-pro like Patrick Queen, but I think he can definitely fill that hole. The biggest move of Week 1, obviously, is bringing in King Henry to continue to run the ball down every team in the NFL. So this has been a top rushing attack for the past few years since Lamar Jackson has gotten there. Now this RPO game with a beast of a back like Derrick Henry, as well as the agility and athleticism of Lamar Jackson, continue to add weapons around this team, and this team will be right back where they were last year. I definitely see this team as a playoff team, and I think this will be the NFC North division winners again going at the end of 2024. Next up, we have the Denver Broncos. And I apologize now. I'm looking at my layout here. My letters look like they're combined, but we're going to rock with it. Denver Broncos, I gave Denver an F. They need quarterback. They need D-line. They need defensive back. And your week one biggest move was releasing Russell Wilson. You cut Russell Wilson as well as Justin Simmons. You don't have very much cap space to wiggle with. You don't have a lot of draft capital to wiggle with. So there's not really a lot to say about Denver. We are looking here at the bottom dwellers of the AFC West. Now, the LA Chargers, I gave LA a D. This team needed running back, tight end, and wide receiver, and they lost all of it. They lost Eckler, they lost Everett, they released Mike Williams, and they traded Keenan Allen. So Justin Herbert is now like the Will Smith meme looking around, where's everybody at? So you will have to build, obviously, through the draft because this team does not have a lot of money. They did restructure to keep Khalil Mack as well as Joey Bosa. Keenan Allen wasn't going for it, so he got traded over to the Chicago Bears for a fourth-round pick. This is a deep wide receiver class, so that's good. It's not a deep tight end class, but I definitely could see Blake Corum ending up in LA with his former head coach. The Las Vegas Raiders, I gave Las Vegas a C. Their biggest needs were with quarterback, offensive line, and defensive line. They crushed it with their biggest week one move with Christian Wilkins. Adding him to a defensive line with Max Crosby is going to be extremely great for them. A player that I wanted to see them actually target or attempt to get was Devin White, just because he's a big athletic linebacker and has been in the doghouse. I felt like Antonio Pierce could get him going. But, man, Christian Wilkins and Max Crosby, they're going to make life extremely hard for the teams in the AFC. They have to play Patrick Mahomes twice, and now you give Christian Wilkins you give Max Crosby a player in Christian Wilkins where you're going to have to play inside and out. You can't double them both. So Andy Reid's got his work cut out for him, but I definitely do like what the Raiders are doing. Again, this is just a week one, so I gave the Raiders a C. The Kansas City Chiefs, back-to-back Super Bowl champs, on their way to attempting to get a three-peat. I gave them a A+. I think with not having to go out and sign players from other teams, being able to bring in your own guys or bringing back your own guys was the biggest, their biggest needs. Wide receiver, defensive line. They brought back Chris Jones. He's not going anywhere. They tagged L'Jarius Sneed, who they could possibly trade and get even more draft capital for. And the Hollywood Brown signing, I really, really, really love this signing for the Kansas City Chiefs because Hollywood has that deep speed. Hollywood has that vertical speed that's going to stretch the field. It's going to open things up underneath for Rashee Rice, Travis Kelce, as well as Pacheco. This was a great first week for the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, it was fantastic for them to only have to make really one move outside of the team and be able to still lead your division, lead your conference, lead your division, and really every team is looking up at you still. All the teams are still looking up to the Kansas City Chiefs. Hey, appreciate it, guys. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Anything that you feel that I can work on, please let me know. It's been some bad weather in my area. I am trying to get me a better webcam and stop using the computer cam. But work with me, rock with me, see how I grow. I appreciate it again. You guys have a good one. Thank you.